Alright. I'm speaking with Matt Wickman, who's employed at MasterCard. Would you like to take a minute to explain a little bit about your position at MasterCard?
Sure. So I'm a vice president of product development and innovation for a group called Cyber and Intelligence Solutions. And basically what that is every fraud type of detection capability that MasterCard has falls into that category. So it's everything from the transaction risk of fraud as you swipe your card to anti-money laundering to identity theft and pretty much a lot of things that you picture as MasterCard, but also a lot of things that you may not in terms of cybersecurity and just threat detection and breaches of data for banks and big merchants.
All right. So I know there's a lot going on with this pandemic, and I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what MasterCard's doing to kind of adjust to the circumstances right now.
Sure, yeah, it's been a big deal for us because we have offices all over the world, and suddenly 20,000 people have to work remotely. So we have the adjustment of trying to do all of our work remotely with the same complication of it's really changed how this business is being affected. So people aren't outside making transactions where they normally do, but they are making a lot of transactions where they don't. So Amazon, online merchants, appliance stores, people are kind of panic buying and buying appliances to freeze food, and a lot of spikes and things that would have been maybe set the alarms off for the fraud because it's not traditional, and then a lot of things that aren't happening like travel. So we've been doing that. So the business is operating fine, but we've also been called in by a lot of governments. Our White House has called us in to see if we can assist on distributing some of the stimulus that some of the countries have put together. So we're doing that with prepaid cards, and it may be a slow time for the economy, but it's a busy time for MasterCard.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So I understand that you have a manager role in your position at MasterCard, and I know that you kind of have people that work for you or under you. And so what's it been like during this pandemic to kind of work to get them to kind of be able to still do what you guys do?
Yeah, it's been a challenge from a work perspective because everybody's days got a little bit longer, and we have some funny background noise with kids and dogs and everything else. But overall, it's just the same types of challenges that a family might face without a job. We're facing with this, where everybody needs a little bit of one-on-one interaction. They need to feel connected to the group. So we do a lot of like a Zoom happy hour or things to try to still do some social things and keep everybody engaged, and try to make sure that we're communicating everything so everybody feels comfortable with what the company's doing, that their jobs are safe, that a lot of our bonuses are tied to the economy and how we do, and that we'll come out of this and still be okay. So it's a challenge, but I think everybody is really approaching it with flexibility and compassion, empathy for what everybody's got going on. So what I think is really interesting is it's going to change the way we thought we had to work. So we seen that with some success and some limitations, but overall I think it's proven that we're capable of doing it, and I expect that a lot of people won't rush to return to the office once it's open.
Right. So that seems a little more stressful than kind of doing some schoolwork. So can you tell me a little bit about your education background and how you got into the position that you hold now?
Yeah, sure. So my bachelor's degree was at the University of Missouri, so Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration. And then I got an MBA from Webster University and another master's in information systems. So those degrees didn't necessarily set me up for this career because it didn't exist when I was in school. So artificial intelligence and machine learning, data science, those things were pretty new and evolving. But the things that did help were the extensive background in math, statistics, a lot of the building blocks of a typical business degree from a more technical side. They all sort of bleed into the problem solving and logic based issues that you face in the kind of environment I'm in.
Right. So I'm looking into a career in accounting with a concentration in forensic accounting. So I'd like to be in the forensic accounting field, and I wanted to know if you have ever been around that field or if there's any ties to what you do, because I know you work a lot with fraud and the forensic accounting field.
Yeah, so one part of our job is that we work a lot with Secret Service, with the FBI. A lot of the fraud is not your typical, just a person stealing an identity. It's organized crime, and they typically have, as good of resources as a lot of corporations. So they have, a lot of sophistication, and their attacks are sophisticated, and they're able to do things that are unbelievable from a technical capability standpoint. As an example, we've been attacked 26 countries simultaneously within 5 minutes, all trying to cash out ATMs. And once something like that happens, we have the sophistication to know that you can't be in 26 countries at the same time. But to then try to connect the dots to where they were successful and where the money moved from there, and how it got laundered after that, we do a lot of work. So the anti-money laundering, working with governments to try, and banks, to try to trace where the data gets converted to usable cash. So a lot of times in my environment, that's going to be into a prepaid card, or it's going to be through a bank transfer. So we also own companies. People think of MasterCard as just credit cards, but we also own companies that are the bank transfers behind PayPal and things like that, Venmo.
Right. So since I am looking into a career for forensic accounting, I was wondering if you had any kind of pointers or anything I should be looking out for as I'm entering the workforce. And I know that you talked about previously that everything's evolving, so there might be opportunities that open up that weren't available before, and so a position that doesn't exist now will later on, and I could possibly move into that position. So what kind of helped you to get around the strict kind of plan that you had initially to get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the first thing that you have to be is flexible, right? So I always approached everything, with trying to break it down to the building blocks. And in your type of field, it's likely to change quite a bit in the years, 10 years from now. It may look completely different, but the thing that won't change are the building blocks that would be the data, right? And by the time you're my age, where data could flow from an accounting standpoint could be devices, but it's going to be much more complicated. So understanding the different, the way data flows, understanding what data looks like, and what's required to, how commerce will be sort of impacted by the new innovations in the future, and what that means to you from tracing financial crimes and things like that, I think are key. So anything that's problem solving based, math based, logic, I think those set you up for success in the future in a career like that.
So just in general, after going through school and getting your undergrad and then eventually your master's and another master's, do you have any advice for just students in general entering the workforce and what to expect?
Well, yeah, the first piece of advice is that it's going to be nothing like school, right? But school prepares you, I think, it's kind of a flash way to adjust to deadlines, deliverables, workloads, learning things quickly. So, the main thing is, to approach your job, the workforce, that way. Don't be afraid to be ambitious and ask for, responsibility. I think where I see it in my situation, we have a lot of college recruiting, we have a lot of interns, and the ones that really put themselves out there and try to get involved are the ones that do well. So, don't think that you can't add value just because you don't have maybe the specific qualifications that you think are required. I think most jobs have enough nuance that you learn while you're there, and you learn by being around more experienced people. So, that's something that got me where I was. I didn't have all the background classwork to support the job I have, but I did end up doing the actual work that is the job I have. So it was all by volunteering and applying myself. And I think anybody who's going into the workforce, that's what they want to do. They want to stand out, and that's the quickest way to get that consideration for the job that you might not have thought you'd get.
All right. Well, that should be everything. Thanks, man.
No problem.